Hey guys, benpaines here, and today we're back once again for another video, and this time we are down at Formula Fast in Milton Keynes in preparation for BRKC 2024, our very first video of 2024, even though this was recorded a couple of days before the New Year's. Now, before we jump into the rest of the video, if you do enjoy this one, can you please leave a like on the video down below? And if you're new to the channel, if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button, as we've just reached over 400 subscribers, which I'm really happy about, and I couldn't thank you guys enough. You're all amazing, and honestly, all the continued support just doesn't go unnoticed. I really do appreciate it. Now we're going to jump straight into the footage. Obviously what you're seeing on screen right now is some hot laps from one of the Unlimited Karting Sessions, I believe they're called, at Formula Fast, in preparation for BRKC, which I'm competing in a couple of weeks at the time of recording, at the end or midway through January, which I'm really excited for, to come up against some of the better drivers in the UK and also drivers from outside of the UK. Obviously we've been to Milton Keynes before for a couple of rounds of SRK where we competed at Formula Fast, and we also did a sort of a public session here with some of the other drivers from Bristol just to try out the track about the exact same time last year. So we're going to see if we've improved compared to our times based on last year, because obviously when we came here before we managed to get a 30.7 second lap time, and you can see immediately in one of our very first laps we've already got a 30.8. Now this session was broken down into 10 or 12 minute sessions, sorry. We had 4 12-minute sessions with a 5-minute session at the end of the evening, just to round out due to time constraints. Now obviously the session you are watching, I'm not going to put them all in, as it is essentially just hot lapping for about 45 to 50 minutes. So instead I have put in my fastest lap time, or the session with my fastest lap time in, just so it gives everyone a little bit of a reference of what a decent-ish time was to sort of aim for when you come down to the track, if you do in the future. Now you can see already we've got a 30.624, which is already a tenth quicker than our fastest time last year. Now obviously last year when we came, we were coming in quite heavy at quite a natural weight, as that was obviously after BIKC, where I weighed up to be in the heavyweight category. So I was around the same weight for this session, because I came onto the scales at 85.5 kilos, I believe, and then I had to put a 5 kilo insert into the cart, as during BIKC the minimum weight constraints are 90 kilograms. So we are rocking around the same sort of weight as we did last year, so it's very interesting to see if we have improved and to see if my driving ability hasn't just fallen away in the last year. So we're coming around the last couple of corners here, trying to keep as much momentum in the car as you can throughout the lap. That is the key point here that I found. Obviously when you go into some corners, if you use too much steering angle, much like was evident there, or you hit the brakes a little bit too hard, you're going to lose all your momentum, and that's going to kill your crucial tenths that you need on this track. Now obviously it's a very short track, so any small mistakes, not short mistakes, any small mistakes you make are going to cost you heavily, because if the drivers behind you are being consistent, or the drivers in front of you are being consistent, they're either going to close up to you or they're going to pull away. And you can see that that is evidenced in our last lap, being a tenth slower than our fastest lap so far. So obviously my goal in this one is, I knew I wasn't going to come out here and be the absolute fastest person on the track. Obviously we haven't actually been to Formula Fast since almost midway through 2023, so I was feeling a little bit rusty. I haven't raced at this heavier weight since BIKC last year, not last year but the year before, in 2022. So it was a big shock to my system, and I was just hoping that I could put in the best laps that I could possibly do and just hope for the best, honestly. Now you can see we've come across the line with our fastest lap so far, a 30.592, and again I was just trying to use some different lines, try and stay consistent, just to ensure that I could get some quick lap times in. Now you'll see throughout most of the lap I'm trying to take the shortest distance to the apexes and around the lap even, because I just find that minimising the track distance on this track is crucial. Obviously if you expand on this, you're going to lose key hundredths of a second, and they all matter quite heavily here at the track. So you can see rather than going all the way to the barrier there on the left hand side going into the snail section, instead I'm staying more from the middle to the left hand side of the track, just to ensure that track distance is kept down that little bit, as I don't believe you need that full rotation going into the corner because you're immediately swinging to the left once more. And again, going into the hairpin near the end of the lap, I'm just trying to hold the line as close to the apexes as I can, just to ensure that I can get the best run out coming across the start finish line. So again, you can see what I'm talking about earlier, not running all the way over to the barrier, because instead you're trying to slingshot yourself out of the corner as you then head on to this unwinding section of the track, which is obviously the fastest part of the track. It's the part of the track where you are staying flat out on the throttle for the most time. So here, unfortunately, going into the hairpin, we do miss our braking zone a little bit, and that just causes us to run a little bit wide into the corner, a little bit deep, and that obviously loses us a couple of tenths yet again, coming across the line with 30.7. So we're being quite consistent in the mid 30s or mid 30.5 to mid 30.7 range. However, we're not putting in any ultra competitive laps yet. Obviously, we wanted to, ideally, if we're going to be on the pace of some of the faster guys on the evening, we wanted to be down in low 30s or even into the 29s if possible, which I didn't think was going to be done, despite having one of the better karts there on the evening that was putting in some of the fastest times. Now again, we've come across the line with an even faster lap on this occasion, a 30.432, so we are getting better and improving with most of the laps that we are completing. However, obviously we're not being ultra consistent where we are reducing that time every single lap. So again, just trying to find my braking point going into the hairpin here near the end of the lap. This is a very crucial corner, as I feel like if you go wide there, you're going to lose a lot of momentum before coming into the last couple of corners. And one corner that I was really struggling with on the evening was the very last corner. I just found that I was getting a little bit too much oversteer coming out of the corner, and that was causing the car to bog down, and I was losing my momentum that I would then need coming across the start finish line. Now obviously this is absolutely crucial, because this is another area of the track where you are going pretty fast compared to some of the other areas of the track where you're using a little bit more lower speed, and you're also hitting the brakes a little bit more to get the car slowed down in the areas that you want it to. I did find on this evening, obviously it is a cold night in January, that the track felt quite slippy, so it was quite detrimental to sort of use quite a lot of throttle control here, especially coming into or coming out of the snail section, because this is obviously a point in the track where you want to maintain as much grip as possible so you can get as much power to the rear end as you can to then lead onto the back straight. Because obviously if you're sliding around coming on the exit of that corner, you're just going to lose a whole heap of time, and it's just going to absolutely kill the lap time entirely, which is one thing I just could not nail down, going into the last corner, and it was just causing me to get a bit more and more infuriated as the evening went on, because I just felt like I could not get that corner right, and instead I was just losing just a tenth or two in that section of the track, which could have pushed me into putting in an absolutely storming lap. So again, we're coming into the hairpin at the bottom end of the track, getting closer to the apex on this occasion, and again not staying as tight to the barrier as possible, sort of using a double apex there to try and get the car in a straight line before the last corner. And you can see that we're now being very consistent in our lap times, 3 30.4 second lap times in a row, and I felt like I was in a little bit of a flow state at this point. Obviously still not being the quickest on track at this point, but we were one of the fastest in our group. I believe we were in 4th or 3rd position at this point, behind some of the other drivers. So I was really happy with this pace, and I was just hoping that I would be able to carry this on towards the end of the session. Obviously the joys of coming to Formula Fast is you can actually see your live timings as you are driving around the track, and that's just something that I really do enjoy, because if you see that you're just a little bit off the pace, it just gives you that inspiration personally to just push a little bit harder and really try your best to get around the track as quickly as you can. You might have seen on the digiboard there on the right hand side, and also on the left hand side here, if the sector times are in blue, it means you currently have your fastest sector time in that section. So obviously when I was seeing a first sector was blue, I really was trying to push it in the second half of the lap. However, this also came to a little bit of a detriment, because sometimes I'll push a little bit too hard, and as you can see, it's just not causing us to gain on our lap times too much. However, once again, as I mentioned, we are just staying as consistent as possible, staying as tight as we can to this left-hand barrier, winding out of the snail section, just to ensure that we are reducing the track length once again. And once more, we're just trying to be as consistent as we can on the brakes, trying to learn some muscle memory of the track, because obviously you almost want to go into a robotic state when you're going around the track, just because if you're not, you're just going to make a few little mistakes, and it's just going to cause you a load of time loss. So again, we're just trying to work on a few different lines here, trying to flick the steering wheel rather than being as smooth, just to test out some different things to see if it's any quicker. However, as you can see, we are just being very solidly within a couple of hundredths each lap so far, which is a very good place to be in. Now, as I mentioned, it's obviously not the fastest times, and I'm not the fastest person on track by any means, but I was having a great time whilst I was going round, and you can see this as we come across the line with our fastest lap so far, a 30.391, so we are picking up the pace slightly, as I did see there was a big group of drivers coming up behind us as well. They seemed to maintain the same sort of position, so I knew I was on some pretty decent pace compared to the people around me, and I was just hoping that I would be able to improve on this once again as we go in later to the session. So once more double apexing, and then trying to get as close to the barrier on the last corner as we can, trying to run it wide and use as much of the track on exit, because obviously we want to preserve as much momentum as we can coming around the lap. But unfortunately on the last lap we did come across the line with 30.571, so we are coming into the latter stages of the session now, and we're just trying to once again push the kart as much as we can, especially coming into the hairpin at the end, which is honestly one of the most crucial corners on the lap, the biggest braking zone on the lap, and if you hit the brakes too much, you're just going to lock up, and again you're just going to lose a lot of momentum. However, we do come across the line on that lap with a little bit of a slower time once again at 30.539, so I believe at this point in the session I was losing my focus a little bit, as a few little mistakes were creeping in. Despite this lap you are watching now is in fact my last flying lap of the evening, and honestly I was just really happy with my overall pace. I was being quite consistent, and I found myself in the top half of each session that I competed in, which I was quite surprised about, as I thought from not being here in a couple of months that I'd be completely off the pace, especially as some of the other guys have been doing a little bit more practice than me. However, this does in fact bring us to the end of the video, so I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you have, can you please leave a like on the video down below, and subscribe to the channel if you're new, or if you haven't already, as I really do appreciate it. As always, my link tree is linked down below in the description, so feel free to check out my socials there. And in the next video I'll be doing something a little bit different for you all. However, in the meantime, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.